I was recently asked about my inspiration for writing life lessons, living in full effectiveness, which is 31 Proverbs for a life of purpose and productivity. My inspiration for this book comes from my favorite book in the Bible, which is a book of Proverbs. Proverbs gives us 31 chapters that don't just provide philosophies or principles, but it gives practical application for effective living. This book is designed to not just tell you how to live the life that I think you should have, but to help you live the life that you want to live. And so Life Lessons is designed to encourage and empower everyday people to get everything out of life. If you're ready to get your life, visit thelifelessonsbook.com. Come on, let's get to life. Good evening. I'm Dr. RickyAllmon, and welcome to Life Talks Leadership After Dark. I hope you're having a great evening. It is 8:30 p.m. Central, where I am in Chicago. And so those that are on Central Time, hopefully you are relaxed, you're chilled out. Those that are on the West Coast, it's 6:30 where you are. Those on the East Coast, it's 9:30. So I'm catching everybody in the different phases of your evening. Some people are just getting ready to eat dinner. Some people may be watching this while you're finishing dinner, and some people have already completely chilled out. But I'm glad that you're here. So how have you been doing? I want to quickly do our quarantine roll call. Y'all know how we roll by now. Cathy, I see you from Delaware. As you come on, just shout out where you're repping, where you quarantining at. I know some of us are under stay in place still. There are parts of the country that may be opening, but if you're still in place, just let me know where you're coming on from. I'm so glad that you're on with me tonight. We've been having an amazing conversation. As you all know, this is episode 5. Can you believe it? This is episode 5 of Life Talks Leadership After Dark. So as you're coming on, hey, my little brother, Pastor Sam Hampton, good to see you. As you come on, just shout out your city, your state. Let me know where you're coming on from. But I want you to do me a favor. As you're coming on, I need you to go ahead, particularly those of you that are on Facebook, and share this conversation on your Facebook timeline. All you have to do is hit share. That's all I need you to do. Just hit share and share it to your timeline now so that the people that are connected to you can grow with you. That's what I want you to do. I want you to share this on your Facebook timeline. If you're on Periscope, Twitter, go ahead and share it to your Periscope or Twitter. Those that are on YouTube, share it there. But I welcome all of you all here. Somebody's on from Dubuque, Ohio. That was Lori. Jill from Evergreen Park, Illinois. That's the Chicago area. So go ahead and share this everywhere. While we're doing this quarantine roll call, while you're coming on, let me know where you're from. There are some of you that have become regulars now. You're on here all the time. So I want to know, over the past 4 episodes, share at least one thing that has stood out to you and that you've taken with you when this conversation was over. So those of you that have been with me for at least 2 episodes, 2 previous episodes, quickly type something that you've gained, some principle, some provocation, something that spoke to your life, that you're trying to implement in your life, so that you can maximize your potential, mobilize your purpose, and multiply your possibilities. Just tell me something you've gained. Those that have been with me over the past couple of episodes, tell me something that you've gotten out of this. While you're doing that, I also want to remind you that if you want to stay connected to me on a regular basis, and you want to find out and receive notifications about anything that I have coming up, here's what I need you to do. Take out your cell phone right quick. You should have your cell phone somewhere close. Just get your cell phone out and text the word Impact Life to the number 31996. Text the word Impact Life to the number 31996. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to do it. Counting now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. You got it? 2, 1. I'll bring it back up again at the end, but I want to get into our conversation. Brandon said one of the things that he's gained is motivation. That's something he's gained from this conversation. He's gained motivation. Thank you for sharing that. I got another little brother on tonight, Reverend Stanley Johnson from Dallas, Texas, the Metroplex. Thank you for being there, Stanley. So listen, I'm ready to get into this. I hope you got your phone out to take notes. I hope you've got something to write on. I hope you've got a pen. Let's get into this. We've been talking for the past few weeks about leading in a time of change, because it is obvious and evident to all of us that things have changed. Whether you like it or not, whether you welcome it or not, it is a accepted fact that since we've been in this COVID-19 experience, things have changed. My brother, Pastor Everett Jennings, man, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining, and you're so welcome, man. I'm just glad to do my little part in trying to add inspiration and insight so that people can live out the destiny they're created for. Thank you for that, man. I appreciate it. So we've been talking about leading in a time of change, and it's obvious that we're in a time of change, and the change that we're in is so definitive until we will never be able to say the word normal ever again without putting the adjective new in front of it. And I think that's critical to understand, because the most important element of leadership is understanding the times. There's nothing worse than trying to do something that worked at one time in the wrong time. You ever seen anybody do that? They have some great ideas. They've got a high level of competence, but they just don't have the wisdom or the intuition or the instinct to know what they ought to be doing when. And the Achilles heel of leadership is for you to have all the right things, but doing them at the wrong time. And so it's important for us to understand as leaders not only what time it is and what we ought to be doing, but we've got to understand how we should be leading and how we should be living in this time. A couple of the things that I've shared with you when I dealt with the subject, don't dance with dinosaurs, and the DNA of a dinosaur slayer, I talked about the importance of strategies and systems. And I made the point that strategies don't exist to support systems, but that systems exist to support strategies. You said, well, Dr. Allmon, what are systems and what are strategies? Let me give you this quick review, and then I've got to hasten along here. Strategies are your paradigm, a paradigm, P-A-R-A-D-I-G-M. A paradigm, not a paradigm. A paradigm is simply how you think. It's how you process thought. It's your cognitive level of engagement. It is your capacity to see and envision and create. That's your paradigm. So when we talk about strategies, we're talking about how you think. But in order for you to engage your paradigms, you have to have a system which is known as parameters. Parameters are nothing less than the behavioral processes. I was on a conversation on yesterday, and I talked about institutional identity and institutional behavior. And it's one thing to know what your brand is, but it's another thing to make sure that the behavior of your brand, whether you're referring to yourself as an individual, or whether you're an entrepreneur that has a business, or whether you're part of a corporation, or whether you're the pastor of a church. It's one thing to know the institutional identity of your brand, but it's a whole nother issue to make sure that your institutional behavior is congruent with what you want your brand to translate in the time that you're in. And whenever you talk about leading in a time of change, that becomes a very critical area for leaders. You may have a great brand. You may have a consistent identity, but it's important that with that brand and identity that you have the right behavior, that you have the right methodologies, that you've got the right system in place so that system can support your strategy. So that's very important to understand. We ended last week with giving you, I think we ended with the third and fourth keys to productivity. I've been sharing over these past couple of weeks the 5 keys to productivity. Before I get back into this and give you the last key to productivity tonight, can anybody tell me what the first 4 keys are? I know I've got some honor roll students here. Anybody that's been with me at least for the past 2 weeks, can you tell me, you don't have to get them in order, but can anybody shout out to me what the previous 4 keys of productivity are that we discussed? I'll give you a hint. They all begin with a C. That's all I'm going to give you. So somebody type on the screen, tell me at least one of the keys. I'm going to start kicking folk off out of this Facebook Live and out of Periscope if y'all don't start telling me something. Go ahead and get your notebook. It's okay if you pull out your cheat sheet. That lets me know you think enough of this conversation to take notes about it. But can somebody tell me quickly what were the previous 4 keys of productivity that I've covered? If you're going to be a leader in the time of change, it's imperative that you have the keys that you need so that you can multiply your productivity and so that you can accomplish everything that you are called to accomplish. Okay, I've got an honor roll student here. She's been the teacher's pet. Cathy says competence, courage, and clarity. So I dealt with competence. Competence is when you do less to accomplish more. I don't have time to go back into these. So if you want to hear any of these, just go back in my Facebook timeline and you can watch the rebroadcast of our previous life talks. Competence is when you do less to accomplish more. What was the second one? The second one was courage, which is the power to move forward. The third one was clarity, which is clear direction. That's good, Cathy. And then I see you giving me the fourth one too, which is coaching. And coaching is when you empower those around you to go with you so that as a leader, you can go further, faster. So those are the first 4 keys in the 5 keys of productivity. That's competence, courage, clarity, and then coaching. Tonight, I want to move forward and I want to deal with the last key to productivity. So after you have competence, after you do less to accomplish more, after you have courage, after you're willing to do something, after you get clarity and a clear sense of direction, after you provide coaching so that those around you can go with you so you can go farther faster, the 5th and final key that you need in the 5 keys to productivity is credibility. You heard what I said? Credibility. You can have competence. You can have courage. You can communicate with clarity. You can be an excellent coach in empowering others. But if you don't have credibility, the other 4 keys won't work. And so that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. I want to talk to you about the power of credibility and the characteristics of credibility. See, this is where we deal with the difference in image and identity. Image is what you want people to think about you. But identity is who you know you are to yourself. And that's very important to understand because there's some people who have a great image, but they have inconsistent identity. Okay, let me put it like this. Come a little closer. Have you ever been enamored with somebody or impressed with somebody who had maybe some preternatural gift, some amazing ability? You were in awe of what they had the ability to do and the capacity to accomplish, and you said one day I want to meet that person. One day I want to get close to that person. And so as fate would have it, you got the opportunity to meet them, only to be let down because you recognize that they look better far away than they looked up close. In other words, let me say it like this. Some people look better in their performance
than they do in their person. I hope you caught what I said. Some people look better in the performance than they do as a person. They look better in their role than they look in their relationship. That's why it's so important that if you're going to be productive, it's not enough to have competence. It's not enough to have courage. It's not enough to have clarity. It's not enough to be a great coach and mentor and leader. You've got to have credibility. You want to look as good up close as you look far away. The people that are looking to you and the people that benefit from you ought to be able to model their lives after you, because what you show is louder than what you say. Ralph Waldo Emerson is one of my favorite writers and poets. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said, for some people, their actions speak so loudly, you can't hear what they say. And so that's why credibility is so important. It's important to be credible. And so let's talk about the characteristics of credibility. While we're talking about the characteristics of credibility, I want you to talk back to me about how significant credibility is to you as it relates to the leaders in your life, the mentors in your life, those connected to your life. How important is it, whether you're dealing with governmental officials, whether you're dealing with religious figures, whether you're dealing with business, how important is it for you to engage with people, whether you're dealing with friendships or relationships? How important is credibility to you? What's the significance of credibility in your life? So I need you to hear this. There are 4 characteristics in credibility. You want to write this down. The first characteristic of credibility is honesty. Yeah, I said it. I didn't curse. That's a real word. Honesty. Now, I need you to realize what honesty means, because the definition of honesty, the connotation in which I'm dealing with honesty, may be a little more expansive than what comes to our mind, because most times when we think about honesty, you're right, Sam, credibility is everything. When we think about honesty, we just think about the virtue of truthfulness. We think about honesty, we just think about the virtue of truthfulness. But when it comes to credibility, honesty goes beyond truthfulness. Honesty is when you don't just say what you mean, but you mean what you say. I'm going to say that again. Honesty goes beyond the virtue of truthfulness. Honesty is when you not only say what you mean, but you mean what you say. In other words, there's no disconnect between the intention and the articulation. That's what honesty means. It means the intention, the motive that you have, and what you articulate are the same. Have you ever heard somebody talk tongue in cheek? In other words, they talked out of both sides of their mouth. They were what you call ambiguous or two-faced or forked tongue. I have to tell you all this story. I remember this story once of, and I know if you're a pastor that's on this conversation, please understand, as a preacher and a leader, I'm not attempting to disparage our fraternity in any way. I'm just telling a story. But the story is told of this pastor who went to visit a family who had been out of church for a while. They went through some challenges, and he hadn't seen them in about 6 months. And so he makes a house call. And he goes to their house. He knocks on the door. Their son comes to the door. And now this is a little boy that he's dedicated. And but the little boy looks at him like a stranger. And the little boy says, "Pastor, how can I help you?" And he says, "I've come to see your parents." Well, the pastor thought the little boy was going to let him in. But the little boy did the opposite. He closed the door behind him, and stepped out on the porch with the pastor and started walking around the pastor looking up at his head. And so the pastor said, "Son, what's going on? Is there a problem?" The little boy said, "I don't know." He said, "But I'm looking for your other head because my parents say you're two-faced." Some of y'all will catch that tomorrow. And that's what honesty is about. Honesty is about you not just saying what you mean, but meaning what you say. And if you're going to have credibility, it's important that your intention and your articulation is clear. I can't resist it. Y'all know I have to make a biblical reference. It's just who I am. When the Bible speaks in the Gospels, in the New Testament, about the character of Jesus Christ, the Bible said there was no guile in him. Do you know what it means to be guileless? Guileless. To be guileless means there was no deceit in him. And that's what it means to have honesty. It means you don't have any deceit. You're not manipulative. And if you're going to be productive as a leader, and if you're going to have credibility, the first thing you've got to be is honest. So honesty is the first key of credibility. The second characteristic of credibility is consistency. The second key of credibility is consistency. Now, here's what you've got to understand about consistency. Consistency is not about how well you do it when you do it. No. Consistency is about you doing it when you're supposed to do it. There are some people who think they ought to be rewarded for just showing up and doing it. But the reality is, if you don't show up and do it when it needs to be done, then it's the same as you not doing it at all. Did you hear what I said? If you don't show up to do it when it needs to be done, then it's the same as you not doing it at all. So it's important for you to be consistent. Don't just say, okay, they know when I get here, I'm going to do my thing. I got this. Well, that's wonderful. But we need you to do it whenever it's needed. When you're tired, we need you to do it. When you're frustrated, we need you to do it. When you don't want to be bothered, we need you to do it. That's what credible leadership is. Credible leadership is to be consistent at all times, and regardless of the mitigating circumstances in your life, you show up with your A game to do whatever it is that's needed from your life. So the first characteristic of credibility is honesty. The second characteristic of credibility is consistency. And then the third characteristic of credibility is responsibility. Responsibility. And what responsibility means, it means that you're able to answer for yourself. It means you assume ownership. Whatever happens, if it goes well, you say it's on me. If it doesn't go well, you say it's on me. And that's critical for leadership. It's critical in leadership not only to do what you're supposed to do whenever it needs to be done, but it's critical that you take responsibility for doing it. That you take ownership. That you say, hey, this belongs to me. This is a part of my life. One of the things leaders have to learn, because this responsibility is very critical. The first area of responsibility in your life is yourself. And you have to be responsible. I want you to hear this. You have to be responsible for how you use what you have. Because every opportunity in your life doesn't deserve the same thing from your life. You better write that down. The first area of responsibility, if you're going to be a credible leader, you've got to be responsible. But the first area of responsibility in the life of a leader is they've got to be responsible for themselves. And in being responsible for yourself, you have to understand that every opportunity in your life does not deserve the same things from your life. If I can make another Jesus reference here, one of the things you'll notice in the ministry and movement of Jesus Christ during the 3.5 years of ministry that he engaged in his 33.5 years of living, Jesus was never respect of person, but he was always respect of purpose. Let me say that again. Jesus was never respect of person, but he was always respect of purpose. What does that mean, Dr. Allmon? I'm so glad you asked. What that means is Jesus didn't give everybody everything they wanted from him, but he gave everybody he met what they needed from him. I need you to hear me, leader. Get a little closer, because you're wearing yourself out. You're going to have burnout trying to give everybody everything all the time. You're not the savior of the world. You're not Superman. You're not Batman. You're not a superhero. You're a human being with a purpose. But if you're going to be credible, you've got to learn how to be responsible, and responsibility starts with you being responsible for you and realizing, listen, I can't do everything. I can't be everywhere. I even realize I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Everybody's not going to like me. Everybody's not going to agree with me. And guess what? That's all right with me. And so what you got to learn is, watch this, you got to learn when to give the best from you and when to give the best of you. Write that down. I told you Jesus was not respect of person, but he was respect of purpose. In other words, he didn't give everybody everything they wanted, but he gave everybody everything they needed. And what that means for you is you've got to learn how to discern, okay, what situations deserve the best of me? And then what situations deserve the best from me? You said, well, Dr. Allmon, can you please explain what that means? I'm so glad you asked. And I've got one more characteristic to give you. But let me elucidate and expand on this thought just for a minute. We're 3 minutes over time, but I've got to give you this. The only situations that deserve the best of you are situations that know how to handle what's within you. You don't give the best of you to people and situations that only want something from you but don't care about you. The people you give the best of you are people who you know value you, and they recognize what to do with what you gave them. You got to get this. The people that deserve the best from you are people you know just want something out of you. They don't care about you. They don't value you. They don't care if you're alive tomorrow. They're going to go find somebody else that they can get something from. And so you got to discern who deserves the best out of you or from you, and who deserves the best of you. The people that deserve the best of you, again, are those who value you and know how to add back to you. The people that deserve the best from you are those who come to you for what they can get out of you. Thank you, my brother Stephen Thurston. I see you in the room, man. Thank you for being here. So let me move on now. So the 4 keys to credibility. I'm dealing with this 5th key of productivity for leaders. We've talked about competence. We've talked about courage. We've talked about clarity. We've talked about coaching. Now we're dealing with credibility. And if you're going to be credible, you've got to, number one, be honest. You can't be ambiguous. You can't be fork-tongued. Number two, you have to be consistent. It's not just what you do, but when you do it. Number three, you've got to be responsible. And the first person you've got to be responsible for is you. But then fourthly, and I'm done, if you're going to have credibility, the fourth key of credibility is accountability. Now, this is where I rest. This is where I take off my hat. And this is where I'm going to bid you adieu, but not without explaining this fourth characteristic of credibility to you. Because I've come to recognize that some of the most gifted, competent, charismatic leaders on the planet have failed miserably. Not because they didn't know what to do, not because they didn't know how to do it, not because they didn't know when to do it, but they failed miserably because they didn't allow anybody in their life to enhance what they did. And if you're going to be a leader of credibility, you got to be honest, you got to be consistent, you got to be responsible, but you've also got to be accountable. What that simply means is you've got to be open to honest evaluation from others. You've got to give somebody, I need y'all to hear me, leaders, you've got to give somebody in your life permission to check you. I said it. You got to let somebody check you. You got to let somebody tell you about yourself. Now understand, you just can't have anybody checking you. And be careful of letting people speak into your life, over your life, and about your life that don't add anything to your life. I don't know why I'm being so blunt tonight, but somebody must need it just like this, because you want to be a leader that operates at a high level, but you're struggling because you're trying to find who you can trust with who you are so that you can develop and maximize everything that you have. And so I need you to understand this. Accountability is so critical. You've got to have somebody in your life that you trust that can tell you about you. You got to have somebody in your life that you allow to say, hey man, you might want to watch that. Hey, girlfriend, you may want to tweak how you do that. I don't know if you want to present yourself that way. And you got to be willing to listen. Don't be thin-skinned. There is nothing worse than a sensitive leader. You know, you can't. Now they want to tell everybody else something, but you can't tell them anything. There is nothing worse than that. You're not qualified for leadership if you can tell everybody else where to get off, but nobody can tell you anything. And so if you're going to be a credible leader, if you're going to get this fifth key of productivity, you've got to have accountability. Listen, if you don't have it now, I got a homework assignment for you this week. I need you to call somebody or talk to somebody that you trust with your life, that you know you can tell your worst desire to, and they won't think less of you, and somebody that you can tell your greatest aspiration to, and they won't be jealous. Did you hear what I just said? I just gave you all the DNA of the type of person you want to be accountable to. I'm going to say it one more time. I'm going to say it slow jam style, and then I'm going to let you go. The type of person that you want to have as an accountability partner is somebody that can know the worst about you, and they won't think less of you. And somebody who can know your greatest aspiration, and they won't be jealous of you. Whoo! I hope you can find that person. That's my prayer for you tonight. If I was to pray for you tonight, that would be my prayer. My prayer for you would be that you find somebody in your life that can know your worst and still see the best in you, and that can see you at your best and not try to tear you down. And when you find that person, if that person just came to your mind, if you don't know them, I'm going to pray that God adds them to you. But if you do know them, you've got homework. I need you to call them this week and say, listen, I want to be productive. And over the past couple of weeks, my mentor, my friend, my brother, my uncle, Dr. RickyAllmon, has been talking about leading in a time of change. And he's been giving us the 5 keys of productivity. And he told us that we need to be competent, that we need to have courage, that we need to have clarity, that we need to be coached. But then he told us that we need to be credible. And when he talked about credibility, he told me that it started with honesty. He told me that it grows with consistency. He told me that it's stabilized with responsibility. But then he told me that I need to be accountable. And so I'm asking you to be my accountability partner. You need somebody in your life that you can be accountable to. Here's what I'm going to end with tonight. I want you to get a little closer. Put your pen down. I want you to hear this. Malcolm X made a statement that I want to share with you tonight that I believe encapsulates the power of accountability. Malcolm X said, find a person more successful than you, and I'll show you a person who sees what you can't see, thereby doing what you will not do. What accountability does is it stretches you to see what you've never seen so that you can do what you've never done. And so that's why I'm here on Thursday nights at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Because I want to be somebody connected to your life, along with whoever your mentors are in your life, whoever your confidants are. Add me to that pantheon of encouragers and supporters in your life that want to see you accomplish what has already been designed as your future. Listen, thank you for joining me tonight. We went a little bit over, but I hope you have been encouraged. I hope you have been equipped. I hope you have been empowered. Please, quickly, even if you're just coming on this conversation, go ahead and press that share button and share this on your timeline. At least find 5 friends who you want to see go into the future with you, and share this with them. You all go ahead and have a watch party when this go off, and discuss it among yourselves. But thank you for joining me. Meet me here next week. I'm here every Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. If you have subjects you want me to talk about, just direct message me. Just send me a message on Twitter or on Facebook. Let me know there's something that you want to talk about, or put it in the comments and I'll go back and read it. But thank you for joining us. I want to mention something to you quickly. If you do not have it, I want you to go and get the Life Lessons book. Just go to thelifelessonsbook.com. But I encourage you to get this book. It's 31 Proverbs for a life of purpose and productivity. And if you say, Dr. Allmon, I don't like to read, well, guess what? I got you covered. If you don't like to read, I got you covered, because I think it was last week, the Life Lessons audiobook was released on Audible. It was released on Amazon. It is still loading into iTunes. iTunes take a little longer. So if you an Apple iPhone user, you may want to get it on iTunes, but go and get the audiobook. You can get it right now while I'm talking. Just go to Audible, go to Amazon. All you got to do is search for RickyAllmon, and I'll come up and you'll be able to get that. But you can also buy the book on Amazon. You can get the hard copy, or you can get the ebook. So I got you covered. If you want a book in your hand, I've got you covered with a hard copy. If you like to read your books digitally, you can get your book in Kindle. And if you just want to listen to it, I got you covered on audiobook. So go and get those resources. They're available to you. And then I think my brother was on here, but on Saturdays at 11:30 a.m., I have a conversation with my brother, Reverend Stephen Thurston. He joins me. We have a conversation called "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. It Will Be Streamed." It's a conversation about leadership and life in the digital age. So I want you to join that conversation. Go ahead and set a reminder in your phone. Put it in your calendar. You don't want to miss it. Okay, y'all are giving me some comments here about the book. Somebody said, my brother Sam Hampton said, awesome book, and I love the audiobook. Man, thank you for your support. Somebody else said, thanks, I got mine. Thank you. Sam said he bought it for somebody else. That's a great idea. Don't just get the book for you, but get it for somebody else. You can gift somebody the audiobook, and I'm going to have some special promos coming. As a matter of fact, if you want to get in on some promos I've got coming up, I need you to click the link in my caption on this live stream and go over to the Facebook group. If you're on Facebook, this is for those on Facebook, go over to the Facebook group that says "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, It Will Be Streamed." Answer those 3 questions. Join that group because I've got some special promotions that are coming up soon, and you want to be a part of that. And then on Sunday nights, y'all got me working hard. On Sunday nights, I do an Instagram live exclusive conversation with my brother, Bishop Henry Bolden, who's from New Orleans. And we come on and talk about leadership in crisis. We talk about how to lead and how to live when you're having to make tough decisions. So I've got everything you need. I've got you covered. Please go and text Impact Life to 31996. This has been Life Talks with Dr. Ricky Allmon, Leadership After Dark. Listen, I need everybody to quickly just go wild and release a social media heartbeat. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Periscope, if you're on Instagram, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and tap that screen and release a bunch of hearts, a bunch of thumbs up. Let me know that you're getting something out of these conversations. Let me know that you want me to continue these conversations. And again, if you have any subject you want me to talk about, you can email me at info at RickyAllmon.org. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great rest of the evening and enjoy the rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon. Or if I was Cedric the Entertainer, I'd say, I holla. All right.